So over the past couple of years, I put my trampoline through the ringer. I mean, that thing has seen some things. Now, unfortunately, this has left my trampoline in a state where it could have potentially catastrophically broke at any given moment. So unfortunately, for safety reasons and for longevity reasons, I decided to finally sunset the trampoline. But with every end, there is a new beginning, and that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we ended up getting a complete new trampoline right here. Yes, I've been testing this thing out for the last couple of weeks, and I absolutely love this trampoline so far. So with that being said, let's hop into the video, let's hop into the review, but you gotta focus. So this trampoline is the same size as my old trampoline, which is a 15-foot round trampoline. I will explain to you why I went with the round version later in this video. So if you haven't heard of Acon, they're a very reputable trampoline company. Not your typical sporting goods store trampoline quality, you know, might last a year, might last 2 years. Who knows when it's gonna rip and break and fall apart. No, this thing is built tough, sturdy, thick. It's like slightly thicker, you know what I mean? It's beefy. So immediately upon unboxing this thing and starting to put it together, the first thing I noticed is just like how thick and girthy all the components are for essentially holding up the frame of the trampoline. Just upon handling it, the trampoline frame itself felt a lot heavier, a lot more sturdy than even my old trampoline, which, keep in mind, wasn't just a cheap sporting goods store knockoff brand trampoline. That was also a good trampoline as well. But this trampoline from Acon right here felt even more just thick than my old trampoline, which I absolutely love because, you know, I want something that's gonna last and be able to withstand the elements of just, you know, keeping my trampoline outside all year long, you know, for multiple years in a row. So that was a big thumbs up that I could see literally right out of the box. So hookup of the 15-foot Acon Air 4.6 was actually very easy. At least the trampoline portion was easy. The only little trick was getting the additional support rails in for the upper part, but that was easily solved with the simple like little hip movement I figured out. You're hooking this thing up and you follow the instructions and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? It's all about the bend, okay? So you push it out like this, and you meet it up, use the hip, and then look at that, I got it, boom. So really at the end, the most time-consuming part of hooking up just the trampoline portion was finally putting on all 110 galvanized steel springs to the trampoline frame and then to the UV treated 10-row stitched mat. So yes, that is a lot of springs, but that means a good amount of response and a good amount of bounce. Oh, it's so new. Oh my gosh, that's so good for tricking. Dude. Most complicated part is literally just making sure you're on the right spring with the right attachment in the mat itself. Does that make sense? After getting the springs on, then installing probably what I would say is the nicest consumer spring pad that I've ever seen right here. It's just something about this just feels quality and kind of adds to the overall premiumness of this trampoline. Oh yeah, that's nice. Nice touch, look at that. And it's got this like additional cover over the side right here to cover up the metal poles. I don't know, I just really like that touch right there. It makes the overall trampoline just look cool on top of being cool already. Now, when it did come to hooking up the premium enclosure net, I must warn you, this was a little more time consuming. So when you get the safety net, it does come with a little tool to hook it up right here. You know, you could spend probably all day tightening those bolts, but it really helps to have a 10mm socket wrench. Even better is if you had like a power drill that had a socket wrench attachment. I mean, you could just be like, whoop, 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 but this works pretty good. In fact, hooking up the enclosure net was the hardest part of this entire process. There's a few reasons this net was a little bit harder to attach than my previous net that I had on the other trampoline. And I think that's because this net is actually completely separate from the trampoline. And to attach this enclosure to the trampoline, you actually have to bolt these clamps over the net poles and the trampoline poles itself. So that's just a little more time consuming. But probably the most frustrating part of hooking up the enclosure net was getting these, what I believe believe to be brass rods in this little attachment piece right here, lined up so that you can put these bolts through them so that you can string them together in this nice round circle around the entire trampoline. It was hard to kind of line up these holes with the bolts so you could get the bolts through. Then on top of that, you had to be sure you were alternating these brass rods from a shorter one to a longer one to a shorter one to a longer one all the way around, and making sure it was all attached, and then eventually popping these on, clipping them on. It was a little frustrating to say the least. And then because I went with the premium enclosure net, which I would highly recommend, because the net on the premium enclosure goes inside of the springs, therefore it would be highly unlikely your foot would get stuck outside of the trampoline, like fall through the springs if you were jumping on it if the net was on the outside. So yeah, to finish hooking up the premium enclosure net, just like my old trampoline, you have to weave the bottom of the net through each and every spring hole, which wasn't as difficult as hooking up that upper part, but it just took a little bit of time and patience to weave all the way around this trampoline through 110 springs. So I tested out the net, I ran into it a couple of times. That thing's pretty solid. It would definitely hold me in if I was losing control and shooting towards the edge without any issues from my test. Now back to how this net enclosure is set up to work with this trampoline. I am planning to eventually actually take the enclosure net off of the trampoline for filming purposes, and I actually just personally like to kind of have that wide open feel, even though it is less safer, just keep that in mind. But because of the way this is designed, it gives me the freedom to completely take this enclosure net off of the trampoline and not have any lingering extruding pieces from the trampoline frame itself that could potentially get something caught in, which I need to tell you is a true story, by the way. My old trampoline had these extruding pieces that would attach to an optional enclosure system. One day my wife was getting off the trampoline and her toe got caught in one of those pieces and it almost ripped her toe completely off. Luckily it didn't, so it just required some stitching and everything healed up and she's fine. But regardless, I just actually kind of like and prefer how the net is a completely separate unit than the trampoline itself, even though it was harder to hook up than the last one. So I do prefer it this way. So initially jumping on this thing, the first thing I have to say about this model right here is it is tight. Like, the bounces are tight. Now that should be expected with a new premium trampoline. It will be a little bit tighter at first and then it will break in over time. I remember my old trampoline being pretty darn tight when I first started, then it loosening up over the next couple of months of use. So I expect the same thing to happen here. In fact, I can already feel it starting to kind of loosen up and settle in already. Now per this model, according to the box that this thing came in, it said the maximum weight capacity for a jumper on this is 330 pounds, but according to Acon's website, there is no maximum weight per single user of this trampoline. So that 330 pounds may just be a standard precaution. With that being said, I truly believe, based on the build quality, the mat thickness, and just everything with this trampoline, that it could certainly withstand a person, 300 plus pounds. So why did I go with a round trampoline and not like a rectangle trampoline or something like that? Because Acon does offer a nice rectangle trampoline. The reason I went with the round trampoline is because I am primarily using trampoline training for tricking or for improving my flips or tricks or trick chains on the ground. And in my opinion, because tricks are kind of like more dynamic, you can go off to one side or the other, at least I do, I personally prefer the round shape when it comes to practicing this. Now in my opinion, if I was looking to be solely a trampolinist, like just literally improve my trampoline game, like that was my only end goal, then I would have probably went with a rectangle trampoline, because rectangle trampolines are known to be the most bouncy. You're known to get the most height on those trampolines. But because I am using this for tricking purposes, the circle trampoline, the shape is going to be better for me when it comes to practicing tricks for the ground. Now with that being said, that doesn't mean this thing isn't bouncy. I mean, initially, right when we hooked this thing up on the first day when it was still pretty stiff, I tried to jump, as high as I could on this bad boy, and I was literally going up above the net in jump height. And without bottoming out on the ground, these 110 springs and this premium mat allow you to still get a huge jump height if you desire with this round premium trampoline. So just to disclose, I personally reached out to Acon Trampolines to see if they would be interested in providing me this specific model of a trampoline in exchange for this video review, and I feel just super blessed that they got back to me. And on top of that, they also hooked me up with an affiliate link, which is in the description below, and if you are interested in purchasing this trampoline or any other Acon trampoline, that affiliate link should get you $50 off your order. Now, I was also told by the marketing staff at Acon Trampolines that they are starting their Black Friday sale early this year, 2022. So for some Black Friday additional discounts, that should be up and running on November 12th, 2022. So if you're interested in picking one of these up or a trampoline like this, use my affiliate link to get $50 off and hopefully get some additional discounts with their Black Friday sale coming up soon. Why did I choose to reach out to specifically the brand Acon to ask if they could provide one of their trampolines for a review video? I remember seeing a video posted by Plan Zero, shout out to Kyle Skelly, the Garrison. If you were or are into flips, then you probably know who I'm talking about. But regardless, in one of his videos, he had an Acon, I believe it was a 15-foot round trampoline just like this one. And just by looking through the camera at that video, I was like, dang, that thing looks heavy duty and high quality. When I get a new trampoline, I think I'm gonna go with Acon. So shout out to Plan Zero for planting this seed, giving me this idea to eventually go with an Acon trampoline, because so far from what I can tell after testing this thing out for the last couple of weeks, this thing is extremely high quality. It's very heavy duty built, and I'm certain it's gonna last me through the years, through the winter. I'm planning to leave this thing up all winter, snow, sleet, rain, sunshine, everything. I've heard these are very weather resistant, and I mean, I can just tell by looking at the quality of all the components. Big shout out to Acon, big shout out to all you guys for supporting this channel and making this a possibility. I appreciate you all so much. Don't forget to subscribe, stay tuned. I have more videos coming out, more reviews, more challenges, interesting stuff. Hope you all have a great day. Peace. I will see you all in the next video.